Now, the Cabinet Lekgotla began its meeting yesterday at the Union Buildings in Pretoria. It's a 3-day virtual meeting. Today will be day 2. Top of the agenda of the Cabinet Lekgotla is the economy, how to recover the economy, particularly under a pandemic, and of course the issue of the vaccination rollout. But where does government even start to fix the ailing economy? Let's unpack this with Xhanti Payi, who's an economist who's joined us now live here on the Midday View on eNCA. Welcome, Xhanti. Good afternoon.
It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
After a long time.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we can't say we use the word good when it comes to our economy at the moment. It's tough. I mean, it's like government, I was reflecting yesterday, caught between a rock and a hard place. Are there levers that currently the cabinet should be considering? They've been meeting the Lekgotla since yesterday, continuing today until tomorrow, that they can pull at least to begin, for example, move their needle in terms of job creation?
Look, I think that we have to start preparing for, hopefully we'll be able to vaccinate everyone. And I think that's probably the most important thing to actually take us back into some sort of normalcy so that actually we can, we can apply some of the things that have to be done. So I think that's the first step. The vaccination drive has to be very, very big. Then, of course, we know the unemployment problems that we have are major, but they also relate to the shift in the economy. So how do we actually, and I think the most important thing is really in the science about what have the things that actually have happened that may actually we need to fix to make sure that we move forward. I think one of the things we don't want to talk about is that over the past 2 years, the economy has shifted, doesn't look quite the same as it did before. So the one thing is how we actually make sure that actually we bring people forward.
Yeah, we were in recession as well. I mean, then you get the pandemic and stuff. But before we delve into the other aspect, just on the vaccination drive, it's also a tough one because there's so much hesitancy.
Though that is true. And I think it speaks to something very, very important that we have in South Africa, which is our problems around literacy, our problems around understanding what the issues are, and so actually, and information, and actually people being informed. I think it's always been a big problem, even when we think about government trying to assist people, when we say, for example, these are the kinds of incentives that are available for business, these are the kinds of things that people can do, young people, but we find that people struggle to get informed and get into those paths because of the literacy problems that we face, which are actually quite major. Yeah. And I suspect that's one of the things that we have to do so that we build a society and a people that are able to understand what's happening and where they actually themselves fit in.
Yeah, and they talk about the skills gap in terms of the working environment. It's also tough. I mean, at a very basic level, internships are no longer happening as they used to, learnerships, because of the pandemic and the restrictions. But I mean, I just did an interview a while ago, this hour, about the mining sector. The Stats SA report coming out showing production by 2019 having gone up by 10.3%. And it's good news, but jobs have been declining, but maybe we can stem that. So if you look sectorally, where can you go? Tourism is said to be, hey, it can help us. And then we look there. But is there something like that you could do?
There is certainly something. I mean, the mining sector now is starting to change, right? We know that there are certain minerals that are going to be very important for the future, things like manganese, because we're now going into renewable energy. So how can we actually make sure we invest in that and we bring in more people into that? We make sure that, of course, licensing is important, exploration is important. Some of these things are actually, I mean, tourism is important, but we also know we're going to have to vaccinate because the hesitancy will also mean that people don't want to come here to be able to experience.
So the tourism sector will suffer. What about agriculture?
Agriculture has been doing very, very well. We've had the kind of, kinds of rains that we want, the harvest that we want, and we saw in terms of the jobs that have come into that sector, the growth that has come into that sector. So we need to make sure we focus there. But that will require that we invest in people, fund, emerging farmers, give them the right kinds of implements, make sure the infrastructure, the water is available. These are
water is going to be a big thing because of climate change and the impact on that. Now, if you look at technology, are there opportunities there for the country to really grab and drive some of these areas?
Absolutely, there's no doubt about that. And I think, when people talk about the fourth industrial revolution, it seems that we are always worried about it's something that's is going to happen to us instead of something that we can take as an opportunity to take us forward. So, for example, we can think about it, in the mining sector, you might mechanize in terms of how you dig out ore, but that you can actually hand over to people, in gold, in diamonds, for people to use that to actually manufacture, jewelry corollary that is, I mean, luxury goods are quite big globally. So we need to actually get into that. We know that manufacturing of clothing items, specialized things, that again, we use technology for some of those things. So it will allow us to bring in more and more people, but we've got to be smart about it. And I think the one thing the president also highlighted after the eNCA was this idea of spectrum. And it can't be repeated enough, how we need to bring more and more so that the cost of telecommunications is
cost
reduced,
of data goes down.
so that we can all then bring in young people.
And as an economist, finally, coming out of the union buildings in terms of this virtual 3-day cabinet lekgotla, we started yesterday, supposed to end tomorrow. When you look at the statements that will come out, what would convince you that, yes, this time it looks like at least there's an understanding, or we are going to be focusing on the right things, and what would those be?
The one thing I think I was quite worried, the president, after the lekgotla said something like, he's calling on stakeholders to come together to bring out spectrum. And of course, he's a major stakeholder. So hopefully he would have brought the stakeholders, the kinds of ministers that are required to actually unlock the spectrum. So that would be very, very important. I think it will also be important to start thinking, to hear what we are going to do to invest in people. The skills development will be very important. The investment in tourism will be important because that is coming in. And maybe something creative about how we're going to do the vaccination. That's going to be critical.
Thank you very much, Xhanti Payi, for your insights as usual. Thank you for having joined us here on the Midday View on eNCA. And that's it from me, Clement Manyatela. Will keep you company from 3 o'clock with